If you missed it, the Saints have released linebacker Nigel Bradham. This came as a surprise because they just signed linebacker Nigel Bradham. And a week into full pads work, they released him. So a little bit of backstory. Nigel Bradham went to Florida State. He was a 4th-round pick. Couple teams in the NFL. Bills, Eagles, went to Philly when Chip Kelly was there. They were a disaster. He persevered there in Philly, became a starter, really good player, and was a starter on their Super Bowl winning team. Well, he had signed a long contract in Philly and hasn't played a full 16-game season since 2016. Played just 12 games a year ago. He's now 30 years old, and the Eagles waived him. They cut him, and the Saints signed him to a 1-year contract. This made a lot of sense for New Orleans because the linebacker core was a gigantic question mark coming off of last year. A.J. Klein left in free agency. Both Kiko Alonso and Alex Anzalone finished the year on IR and have had major injury issues surrounding them in their career. You have Demario Davis, who's an all-pro and is awesome, but after that, it was nothing but a bunch of question marks. Nigel Bradham was a veteran, every-down linebacker that you thought could serve you well while you waited to see if the young guys came along or if Alonso and Anzalone could stay healthy. So this news today, at the start of the second week of full pads, was surprising to a lot of people for some pretty obvious reasons. Like, it was thought that Bradham could be a guy that not only could make this roster, but could vie for a starting job. I know more. So, I think the response here is one of two things. One is maybe Bradham's release by New Orleans indicates why Bradham was released by Philly. 30 years old, played in just 12 games a season ago, and hasn't played a full season since 2016. Philly took on a $5 million dead cap hit this year to release Bradham. Meaning even though he's not, for those who don't understand that, even though he's not on Philly's roster, he still counts $5 million against the cap. So they're basically paying against their cap to not have him on the roster. That should be indicative of something. That's one thing. Maybe after looking at him running around in full pads for a week, it was indicative that he's just not what he was and what they were hoping he could be. The other side of it, and this is what I'm really hoping for, is that the young linebackers look really good. Alex Anzalone, by all accounts, is running around making plays every day. And he has been one of the guys that has been most talked about here in the early parts of camp. That's great. And if he's healthy, it's clear he is a starter, if healthy. You know, Anzalone has obviously battled injuries during his time in the NFL, but he has had one full season. It was his second year in the league, and when he was healthy for that full 16 games, he made 60 tackles, he had a couple of sacks, forced 3 fumbles, intercepted a pass. Like, as a backup, a rotational linebacker, he was really good. If he's healthy, he's an every down player along with Demario Davis. The other guy that really could be the surprise defensively of this year is Zach Bond. So Zach Bond, as we recall his story, was drafted in the 3rd round, coming out of Wisconsin, there were a lot of draft analysts that had given him a first or early second round grade. There were, I believe in Mike Detillier's mock draft, he had Zach Bond going late in round 1. Zach Bond goes to the combine. He has a dilute sample. For those that don't know what that means, it's essentially you've just got a lot of water and it dilutes your sample. They can't get an accurate reading. Well, a dilute sample is flagged as a failed drug test. When you didn't necessarily test positive for anything, but the sample was dilute, so they flag it as a negative, as a failed drug test. Well, that caused a lot of teams very likely to bump him down or take him off their board. This happened to Zach Mettenberger the year he was coming out. He had a dilute sample at the combine. So Bond is a guy that is essentially a first-round talent that the Saints got in round 3. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised that he's flying around making plays. It is worth noting that after Nigel Bradham was cut Monday morning and the Saints practiced, this is from Jeff Duncan on Twitter, Saints rookie linebacker Zach Bond was having a terrific practice on Monday before leaving the field with what appeared to be a left leg injury. He made 2 tackles for loss in team drills and engaged in a spirited kerfuffle with Jared Cook during pass pro drills. So again, another guy that's just having a phenomenal training camp, but left early today with a leg injury. We'll wait and see what the severity of that is. Considering we haven't seen much come of it, hopefully it doesn't seem like it's anything too serious, but that's okay. But maybe Anzalone and Bond, their ascension, made this decision to cut Nigel Bradham that much easier. Because you feel like we don't need the veteran guy, the veteran insurance policy, because the 2 young guys we got are flying around making plays and they look great. And then the third guy in the mix is Joe Bocci, the undrafted rookie free agent out of Michigan State, who the Saints love as well and could very much end up factoring into this lineup, especially if he can be a special teams guy. You know Craig Robertson is one of your captains. He's a special teams bandit, and he's a tackling machine, and if you need a backup, he's there for you. So that position, which looked really suspect after Demario Davis, I'll grant you, it's only a couple of weeks of camp, but the fact that you're cutting your insurance policy tells you the coaches are really high on the young guys they have. And that means you're solidifying yourself not just for now, but for the foreseeable future with this young talent flying around making plays. This is one of those things where I look and I go, I really, really wish we had preseason games. And I understand, not like from a competitive standpoint, not everybody wants to sit there and watch every preseason game. Fans certainly don't want to pay face value regular season prices for preseason games, which we're all forced to do if you want to buy season tickets. But the thing that I love about preseason as a junkie is I love to see those battles for those last roster spots. I'd love to see how they're using Zach Bond flying around the field, seeing what kind of impact he's going to make on this team. You know, it's also worth mentioning, Zach Bond has been compared kind of in that same mold as Haoli Kikaha. 6'3", 240, kind of that undersized edge guy, you know? Like, how does he fit in that role? You know, I will be very interested to see how this defense takes advantage of Zach Bond and uses him in this defense. But, you know, if you're in a lot of nickel packages anyway, you take a linebacker off the field, Demario Davis, Alex Anzalone. You need a third linebacker, an edge guy. Maybe that's where Bond or Carl Granderson comes onto the field. But either way, seeing Nigel Bradham released today, in my opinion, is indicative of 2 things. 1, Bradham's a little long in the tooth. And 2, you really need to feel optimistic about the young guys the Saints have coming behind him. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.